Brown, and this is, of course, his friend Dorian Johnson, who was with him during this event. Let's listen to this.
It definitely was just horrible to watch. It was horrible to be front center to that whole situation. I seen it in his eyes. Yeah, it looked like it hurt him a lot. Yeah, it hurt him a lot. I see it in his eyes, it hurt him a lot, but it wasn't registering because he's trying to tell the officer that he's unarmed and he cannot do nothing to stop what are you doing. Like, he couldn't do nothing. And he couldn't feel the shots, but he knew he was being shot, and he's trying to tell him to stop shooting him. And he continuously shooting him point blank range. He's not trying to reach for his belt line. He's not trying to run towards the officer. He stood and turned around towards the officer with his hands in the earth. It was definitely like being shot like an animal. It was almost like putting someone to execution without remorse.
Lisa Bloom, two very valuable witnesses there, Dorian Johnson and Tiffany Michelle. Tiffany Michelle has the advantage, though, of not being a friend of Michael Brown. Juries, when they hear that you're talking about your friend, they're going to assume often that you might shade it a little bit.
That's true. And I can tell you, as a practicing trial lawyer who assesses witnesses every day for a living, Tiffany Michelle is excellent. I give her an A. Why? Because she's very clear about telling her story, and then she stops. She doesn't embellish. When she doesn't know, in response to your questions, Larance, she says, I don't know. When you asked her the same thing repeatedly, she told exactly the same story. She's calm, she's factual, and she doesn't overstate. I think she's a terrific witness.
And Jim Kavanaugh, as the police reveal absolutely nothing about what happened on that street, relentlessly continue to reveal nothing. The evidence continues to develop from witnesses who were there that this was first-degree murder.
Well, I agree, Lawrence, and I thought Dorian was very credible as well, and I watched his interview, and when he talked about going behind a car there after Michael was first shot, and he couldn't move his legs, you know, that is a fear response, natural, a brain that makes you do that. I felt that in shootouts. Your legs feel like they're lead, and you have to consciously move them. Nobody can make that up. A 22-year-old guy cannot make that up. He really experienced that neurological fear. And when I watched him say that, I said, you know, this is a truthful recount because nobody could make that up. It's a feeling you can't even describe. And he described it. And he was so scared that he stood still. But he also described the officer had tunnel vision and went right for Michael. And that's another thing we get in the shootout is tunnel vision or a shooting situation. So I think they're both very credible. I think the young woman on the balcony is very credible. And I could draw up a criminal complaint for murder, for civil rights violations on this case in an hour and have that officer arrested. And the evidence is strong and it's not going to change.
Yeah, and it actually could have been done that day. Lisa Bloom and Jim Kavanaugh, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Chris Hayes is next. He's live now from St. Louis.